The best places to live in 2023. As you guys know, I am a fan of The World According to Briggs and his YouTube videos, but his best places to live in 2022 left me a little bit disappointed. He had places on there like Spartanburg, South Carolina, which would possibly make my worst list. He also had Grand Rapids, Michigan. As you guys know, my wife Katie is from a small town right outside of Grand Rapids. We've been up there in the cold time of the year. We've been up there when there's no snow on the ground. Since Katie is from a small town right outside of Grand Rapids, we have considered extensively what moving here would offer us. And let me tell you, we are not really interested. There's not anything to do in this area. Even when it was 22 degrees, it was freezing cold. I went for a walk downtown, and in that frigid weather, I did a live stream where I ran into drunk people that were not really very friendly. Even when you look at the state of Michigan, it's not even top 5 within the state of Michigan. I'm not going to put a name on this, but I think some of the other large creators of videos of the genre that I make are purposely saying misleading information to get clickbait results from the comments. I am a very conscious creator. Like, I could not have somebody move to a town because they heard me say it was great, only to find out it wasn't great because I decided that it would be a good clickbait comment video. Like, the consciousness that I have when I create content, I don't know what other people's morals are, but when I give you a top 10 list, like, I'm putting my heart into this. When I've made mistakes about moving somewhere, with tears in my eyes, I have told you guys the nightmares that I've lived in certain places. And I feel that despite the fact I'm on YouTube to make money, I can't sit here and give you guys a top 10 list that I know is wrong simply because it's a good clickbait. Could my opinion be wrong? Absolutely. That's all this video is. Let me explain to you guys how I came up with this list. I thought about all the places that I've traveled. Me and Katie sit down, we talk about every single video. What are the places that we've been to that we would love to move to? And on the case of this video, we have about 15 or 16 videos that I downloaded. Now, I'm not even going to start from number 10 and work my way up. I'm going to start from number 1 because that way, by process of elimination, I can go ahead and give you guys like a more perfect list. So understanding that, when I look at the 15 or 16 towns that I downloaded the files for, the number 1 place that I wish I could move to in the United States is Gary, Indiana.
Jose, I read that email about that realtor who'd give you $500 to say Gary, Indiana is the greatest place on earth.
They don't know the difference. They're from New York. What the crap do they know? Ow! I'm sorry.
Now you know better than that. You give them the real list, Jose.
But this guy's gonna pay me $500 if I say Gary. Okay, I'm sorry. Dude, I'm sorry. Okay, dude, back off. Back off, man. Go play your computer. Go. Get off. Katie won't let me be a piece of crap. Number 1 is Monterey, California. Out of all the places we have seen in the United States, nothing else even comes close to how cool and awesome this city is. Is it affordable? Absolutely not. Could I ever afford to live here? Possibly never. Nonetheless, the fact that you have one of the most beautiful places in the country, the fact you can go look at freaking whales like whenever you feel like it, the weather, the mountains, the sea, the wildlife, there's nothing else in the United States that even remotely comes close to the natural beauty of the Monterey area. And not only is the natural beauty awesome, but the people that we met were very happy and very friendly. Leaning a little bit in one direction, a little bit too much, is kind of hard to get used to, but that's kind of the package in California with the people there. If I had kids going to school, I don't know how I would feel about them learning all that stuff. No place is really perfect, but the Monterey area of California is absolutely one of the most incredible places I've ever seen. And when it comes down to it, whether you like the area, the way people are, that's a whole different story. As far as like place to live, if money is not an obstacle, I guess, then you just can't beat this area. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing. There's so much wildlife. The vibes are very cool. The food is amazing. Everything about this place is like perfect. Like as far as anything I've ever seen in the United States, nothing even comes remotely close. The people that are from here that I met are very chill and very relaxed. Living full time in a place like this has a very relaxing effect on the people. I'm not going to get a Prius, but I'd move here. Despite what you've heard, the cost of renting here is really not that different than the cost of renting in a nice place in Florida. The most expensive meal I have ever had my entire life was right here at just under $220. And I know it's probably a tourist trap, but the coolest thing you're ever going to do in your life is whale watching, and Katie's favorite thing on earth are orca whales. So the fact that we can go whale watching and there's times of the year when they do spot orca whales out here would mean that Katie would be the happiest person in the world. And it's a tourist trap because in reality there's so many whales right outside of Monterey that you'll see hundreds of them on a trip. It's not like you're not going to see a whale for the most part. Number 2 is La Jolla, located in San Diego, California. The reason I don't want to say San Diego is because the downtown has a lot of homelessness. From what I could gather, possibly more homelessness per capita than Los Angeles. So to say San Diego as a whole would be very misleading. But I'm going to say if you can pinpoint like a really nice area in the San Diego area, especially in the north side of San Diego County along the coast, I would move here in a heartbeat if the opportunity presented itself or it was within the budget. Again, the wildlife is incredible. The weather is beautiful. The city of San Diego is incredible. And it does have, like I said, a huge homeless problem downtown. Like, I don't see me walking through San Diego downtown the way I would walk through Sarasota. The amount of homelessness near downtown means probably gets crazy from time to time. Now, homeless people in California are not like homeless people in Florida. When I went to California and I saw thousands of homeless people, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to die. But I soon realized that the homeless people in California are like actually still humans to some degree. The homeless people here in the Sarasota area are like straight out of the zombie apocalypse. For the most part, homelessness in California is a lifestyle choice that the weather accommodates very well. Despite running into hundreds if not thousands of homeless people in a 2-week period that I was in California, not a single one of them asked me for money. They're not like begging and crying for help like they are here in Florida. Lifestyle choice, not a zombie apocalypse. Number 3 is Lakewood Ranch, a suburb of Sarasota. If you go online and you write top 10 best places to live, Sarasota, Florida is almost always going to be on the list. But you don't really want to live in Sarasota. You probably want to live in Lakewood Ranch. The actual city limits of Sarasota are congested. Traffic really sucks, especially in the wintertime. Disclaimer, I actually live within the vicinity of Lakewood Ranch, and I want you guys to know there's no real like favoritism with Lakewood Ranch being on the list. I did not move here on purpose. After Hurricane Ian destroyed Fort Myers, housing in Southwest Florida pretty much disappeared. So we were really fortunate that we found a place to live here. While traffic in Sarasota is a nightmare, traffic in Lakewood Ranch is very manageable even during peak hours. There's a lot of big, beautiful oak trees, really tall palm trees. There are lakes everywhere, walking trails everywhere. The Braden River kind of winds its way through. Lots of parks, lots of rivers, walking trails. If you like walking or biking and just being out in the outdoors, there's so much to do. Easy access to Interstate 75. Unless you're going to be in downtown Sarasota like on a daily basis, I don't really understand why you would want to be like in the core of Sarasota. Lakewood Ranch is very convenient. It's extraordinarily safe. There's a huge variety of restaurants, and it is possibly one of the largest and best planned communities in the United States. This place is really perfectly designed. And if you think I'm playing favorites because I live here now, Many years ago, I did a top 10 list of the best places in Florida, and I'm pretty sure Lakewood Ranch was number one. That was many years before I even knew I would end up living here. Even to this day, I still struggle to wrap around my head the idea that I actually live here. Compared to Fort Myers, you have better access to beaches, less congestion and traffic, huge variety of restaurants that are much more diverse and expensive. I kid you not, every 3 to 4 minutes there's a Starbucks or a Publix. If you don't believe me, Google map this place and you'll crack up. Like, there's literally 3 Publixes. Like, within a 10-minute period, I could hit up 4 different Publixes. It's just perfect for anybody that's from Florida knows, like, if you have Starbucks and you have Publix, and like, let's say for one reason one of them is closed down because a Florida man drove his homeless cart through the parking lot and into the store, like, there's another Starbucks and Publix 3 minutes away. I kid you not. The PSK per capita here is through the roof. And by the way, that's Publix, Starbucks, Karen. You know what? Jokes aside, I haven't really ran into too many Karens here. People here are actually pretty level-headed. Naples, Florida, where I used to live, Karens, like, incredibly, like, they're everywhere. But here, it's really not that many Karens. What you have here are angry construction workers. Like, there's not so many Karens as there are Pablos or Julios. I don't know what you call an angry. It's usually like a white work van with a ladder on the roof. He's going like 80 miles per hour, passing cars in and out with no turn signal. Or a guy with a pickup truck that will likely drop a piece of cardboard or a cabinet off the back of a Dodge Ram pickup truck because he's in a rush to get somewhere. Maybe he's a contractor. Maybe he's working underneath a contractor and doesn't really have a contractor's license. You get the idea. Have not really had to deal with too many Karens, but what I have had to deal with are construction workers who are almost certainly going to drop a cabinet on the road in front of you, but somehow it hasn't happened yet. You really cannot go wrong with Lakewood Ranch. Another great thing about Lakewood Ranch is the amount of schools. I could go on forever. Let's just move on to the next one. It's awesome here. If you need a realtor and you have, 5 or 6 more years to wait on Katie to finally get her dang real estate license, at some point she'll have to get it. Number 4 is Southwest Miami. We're talking Kendall West, the Hammocks, Coral Gables, anything in Miami that has a Southwest address could be a great place to live. Granted, you'll probably need Spanish. I know Spanish. I don't care. I'll be fine. All right. You'll need Spanish like 40% of the time. Not always. But whatever. It's a nice place. You can get out into the Florida Everglades. If you stay on the far west side of Miami, you can get out into the Florida Everglades. If you like fishing, hiking, heat exhaustion, or being attacked by panthers, black bears, alligators, alligator snapping turtles, Nile monitors, boa constrictors, pythons, piranhas, garfish, giant garfish, alligator garfish. Those are just some of the things that can eat you if you don't know how to catch them properly. If you don't mind looking over your shoulder every 10 seconds to make sure no animals are trying to eat you or possibly dying from heat exhaustion or a heat stroke, the Florida Everglades are an incredible place to be shooed alive by mosquitoes. There's a spot halfway between Naples and Miami that I go bass fishing where on occasions I have counted 150 alligators in one spot. Drive in the other direction and you can get into Coral Gables in downtown Miami where you'll have like the same heat exhaustion, but instead of being attacked by mosquitoes and alligators, you're being attacked by an Argentinian lady in a Porsche Cayenne. I'm not gonna tell you Miami's perfect, but if you don't mind heat exhaustion throughout the entire year and at least some basic Spanish you're going to need, you'll be alright. This area used to be mostly well-to-do suburban, kind of ritzy Hispanics, but there's starting to be a lot more diversity moving in. It's a really safe area. All of the suburban things you want are going to be out here. It's been interesting for me to watch people move to Northeast Miami because more English is spoken in the area. Even though it's got more crime, more congestion. Give me Southwest Miami, Kendall all day, bro. Like, it's just a really clean suburban area. Lots of restaurants. Expensive, yes. Very competitive job market. Don't think you're going to come out here and make a crap load of money and pay cheap rent. The rents are ridiculous. Jobs are scarce and hard to come by, and most people are extraordinarily hardworking. So this is not a place you're going to move to for economical mobility. If you got money, you got a good job, you can get some hustle going on, you'll do okay. It's an incredible place to live. Again, this list is of the best places to live, not of the best places to be lazy. Don't really expect a lot of places on this list to be cheap. The notion of all these YouTubers that make YouTube videos about the best places to live that are still affordable, if it's affordable, there's a reason. If it's extraordinarily expensive, there's also a reason. Usually places that are extraordinarily expensive, it means that a crap load of people want to live there. And in the case of Miami, for a city that large, it's one of the safest cities in the country, especially these suburban parts. Murder rates are extremely low, and it's not really as trashy as people think it is. A lot of times people say, oh, I got robbed in Miami in 1972. It ain't 1972. It's a very nice, clean suburban area. If I can find a newer luxury apartment for under $2,500 a month on the far west side where I can really easily get onto the Everglades to disconnect when I need that nature, and you can hop easily into Naples, head into the Keys, or north into Broward County if you're far enough to the west, because the further east you go, the more congested it gets. By the time you get to US 1, yes, you do have the wealthier, more expensive neighborhoods where houses get up into like $50 million price range. But trust me, you don't want to live there. It's super congested. It's not even super congested. It's a nightmare. One of the worst things about living in the Miami area is traffic. But if you end far enough to the west, it doesn't exist. Little Havana is a lot of fun, but I probably wouldn't move into that area. You kind of want to be like west of the airport. Anything east of the airport or along US 1 kind of gets more hood, especially around the more affordable areas. Low key, a lot of celebrities might have a presence in Northeast Miami, but when it comes down to like where they actually live, to like be kind of hidden and put away, like when you get into Southwest Miami, it's mostly Cubans, Colombians, people like that. They're not really following mainstream crap. So a lot of like really famous people are starting to move into those areas because they can just kind of fade in better. Like a few of Trick Daddy's incidents have been in Southwest Miami. You would think he would be in Northwest Miami. Actually, like they all kind of secretly hide somewhere in this part of Miami because it's a large Hispanic area that's kind of wealthy, affluent. Most people here, they're not following mainstream media. So if you need to like hide and disappear in plain sight, it's a great place to do it. Number 5 is Scottsdale, Arizona. One of the most beautiful, great shopping locations you're going to find. It's just like Miami, the palm trees, the warm weather. Scottsdale is an awesome little area. However, again, no place is perfect. There are some definite issues with the Phoenix area. One of them, if not the most concerning thing about living in the Phoenix area, is that the air quality is unbearable. The air doesn't have the ability to circulate. So if you move to Phoenix area and you are asthmatic, just know that you will likely not be able to breathe. If you can get past that little hurdle, the Phoenix area is a great place to live. The shopping here is some of the best shopping anywhere in the United States. And of course, you're not going to have expensive malls and great shopping without affluence and people that have a crap load of money. It used to be a great place for people retiring, but a lot of young people are moving here as well. It's a very affluent place. Just like the cities around Miami, Florida, the Phoenix area really does not have those ridiculously high murder rates that other American cities have. It's a type of place where people have money. It's an affluent Hispanic area, and just people are not really trying to like get into trouble. They're just trying to live their nice, rich suburban lives. So if you mind your own business and stay out of the way, you should be okay in this area. You're going to enjoy some of the most beautiful desert-like environments, some of the absolute worst air quality imaginable. So if you like living in the desert, dealing with extraordinarily high temperatures, lots of palm trees, great shopping, and horrendous air quality, consider the Phoenix area. The beauty of this place with the desert and the palm trees is really breathtaking. Like literally. A very diverse and very progressive area. If you are a minority, you should feel very comfortable. If you're from Arkansas, slightly uncomfortable. Number 6 is Franklin, Tennessee. As you guys know, I consider Nashville one of the best cities to move to, and so do all of these online lists of the best places to live. Franklin is where the rich people who think their poop don't stink live in the Nashville area. There are quite a few fancy rich people areas on the south side of Nashville, but Franklin is one of the most elite, fancy, rich people areas where you can just be a snob in Nashville. There's a lot of work in this area, and just to the south of here in Spring Hill is a GM manufacturing plant. So this area has a lot of work, really nice, beautiful homes, and you can still find real estate here into huge price tags. So there's a concentration of very affluent people in this area as well. So there's the middle class, the suburbia, and there's a little more affluent category of people here as well. So if you want to have a really nice place to live, the weather in Nashville is almost perfect. You can't really beat the weather in Nashville. I consider Nashville to have some of the most perfect weather in the United States. It's a city that has enough diversity, incredible nightlife. There are very bad pockets throughout Nashville as well. That's why you kind of want to end up further, and that's why a lot of people in Nashville commute, and that's why traffic along Interstate 65 is an absolute nightmare in Nashville. None of these cities are perfect. Nashville has its flaws as well. It definitely doesn't feel as crimey like some of the other cities like Atlanta, for example. But again, you're going to pay for that with a huge price tag to live here. Nashville isn't known for being affordable. Given the opportunity, I would personally love to live in the Nashville area. It's a city that's really grown a lot and has a lot to offer. You get too far into the rural parts, though, it's almost like moving to Alabama, so make sure you stay within the urban core of Nashville. At this point, it's even hard to specify what areas are best because it's just a giant, growing, sprawling suburban area with mansions and almost mansions just growing in all directions for huge areas. You won't even believe how big the urban sprawl of Nashville is getting to be, especially towards the south. And a lot of people kind of affluent. So it's a great area to be. All right, guys. So those are the 6 main best places you should move to. For the remainder of the list, it's not in chronological order because I'm really struggling to lay them in which one's better than the other, but like I'm just gonna throw them at you. Okay, so number 7 in theory would be Marco Island, and from here on, like the first 6 that I gave you guys are in that chronological order. The rest of these are just kind of like whatever. Number 7 is definitely Marco Island, right outside of Naples. It did really well with Hurricane Ian. It did have storm surge, but because it's a brand new, like up to code, most of the constructions did really well. The fishing is incredible. Access to the Everglades is incredible. The water quality here is somewhat better than other places. The red tide is a huge problem for Southwest Florida. That's why we're not seeing Southwest Florida on this list, with the exception of Lakewood Ranch, because it's so far inland that it's not having this problem. Hurricane Ian did a lot of damage to Southwest Florida, and it may take a few years for me to regroup Southwest Florida into these lists again, because for now, living in Southwest Florida isn't what it used to be before Hurricane Ian. This has been a huge storm, and it's going to take several years for things to get back to normal. And the amount of contamination that entered the water, I hate to have to say this, but it may have like real permanent long-term negative impacts for Southwest Florida, because the amount of contamination that hit the Gulf with these 12 and 14 foot storm surges, this is unprecedented. We just don't know what's going to happen with the contamination and the red tide. It's been horrendous since Hurricane Ian, and it hasn't got better. I don't think it was this bad after Hurricane Irma, so I don't know what's going to happen with Southwest Florida. At least Marco Island being that much further south is a little bit relieved from the heaviest pressure of the red tide. I'm just going to throw that in there. It's been very difficult. Some people are not affected by the red tide. Me, it affects me horribly. Marco Island also lacks a lot of good restaurants and things to do. It's a very small place. Basically, you need a beach chair, a boat, and like a mask to breathe. If I was going to buy a property between $700 to $1 million, I would personally consider Marco Island. It's a great getaway, and it's far enough from the urban mess of Naples where traffic's not really a concern here. But again, there's not a lot to do on the island, so it's kind of almost a better place to hide out for the winter. Great place to snowbird from. But regardless, even if you like to be here full time, the fishing in the Everglades is incredible. It's a whole lot safer than a lot of the other areas. And there is a lot of work, but finding commercial places to start a business from is very difficult. It's an island that's already built up, so space is like at a premium here. Number 8 is Bentonville, Arkansas. Now, a lot of the YouTubers are going to tell you it's Fayetteville. I spent a good deal of time in this little area, and I explored Rogers and all the little towns up here. Fayetteville didn't impress me in any way. Bentonville is really where the money's at. This is where the bigwig Walmart people are. And there's a huge Latino community. Basically, this has nothing to do with Arkansas. Like, it's in Arkansas, but there's mountain ranges that divide this from the rest of Arkansas. And this is the only area in Arkansas you should even remotely consider moving to, probably. It's just different than the rest of Arkansas. It's much nicer, much cleaner. There's a huge Latino community, but that's only because of the Tyson companies out there, and that's not really great work. So it's not like they're offering Latinos like the opportunity to fly a spaceship. It's Tyson Food Company. Those aren't really great jobs. I don't know if you guys knew that, but the diversity in Arkansas isn't like a respectable diversity. Like in Florida, it's like very affluent communities. In California, it's affluent communities. In Phoenix as well. Yeah, there's Latino communities here, but they're working in chicken plants, so it's not really as glamorized as they put it out to be. Let's just be clear about that. But there is the Tyson food. There is Walmart. There's a lot of money here compared to other parts of Arkansas. And there is somewhat of an affluent vibe. You'll see people driving around in like ridiculously expensive cars. Keep in mind that the Walmart family is like one of the richest people in the whole dang world. The irony of this place is destroy 1,000 small towns in the South so you can have one really nice town. Makes perfect sense. I want to be honest, I struggle to put Arkansas on a best list, not because I have anything against Arkansas, but I just know how the Deep South is, and the state of Arkansas as a whole has some of the worst statistics possible, so it's almost like, why am I really putting these towns on this list? It makes no sense, really. But let me at least clarify that it's not Fayetteville where you want to end up. The money and all the good fun stuff is all in Bentonville. And yes, there's beautiful mountains in all directions. And yes, even though it's in Arkansas, there's a huge Hispanic community and Pacific Islanders. Number 9 is Cary and Apex, just to the west of Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm not really a fan of North Carolina for the most part, but I will tell you there's a few places in North Carolina that are just a little bit better. And I think the area west of Raleigh is really nice. The amount of diversity out here is incredible. So if you're Asian or Hispanic and you want to be in an affluent, diverse area, this is a great option. The real estate is not affordable because it's a very attractive area. It's fast growing. So if you're looking for affordable real estate, you're not going to find it here. Raleigh is one of those cities that I think are really overrated, but the suburbs are not. They're great areas. The weather, again, is almost perfect. Beautiful natural settings. Lots of diversity and opportunity here as well, with a huge amount of construction still going in. If you are considering North Carolina, this is where you want to end up. And let me give you a warning. Charlotte, North Carolina is on almost all of these online lists. None of my travels to Charlotte, North Carolina have been smooth. Almost every single time we've been there, we've had horrendous things happen, usually revolving around people trying to take our camera and stop us from recording for some reason. So I'm not really a fan of the Charlotte area. Also, our hotels usually have some type of like trailer from the sheriff's department with cameras because there's a lot of break-ins at the hotels. I'm not a fan of Charlotte, North Carolina. And despite all the hype about Raleigh, I went out late at night and spent some time through the city. There's people car racing, doing donuts, people just meeting up randomly in parking lots. It seems like there's definitely kind of a nightlife here that's not the best. So I'm going to let you know you probably want to stick to the suburbs with Raleigh and not within the city limits itself, because what I saw late at night, it wasn't horrendous, but it definitely wasn't like this safe vibe you're probably expecting if you're moving to one of the best places to live in the country. I also found Raleigh to be kind of bland and simple. Like, I don't really distinctly remember any characteristics of it. At least Charlotte has like a very remarkably like unique skyline and stuff. Raleigh just didn't have that. I do remember, however, that when I was in Cary and Apex, I had a great time. We tried like Cuban food. They had like a lot of Indian food. There was just a lot of different diversity of ethnic foods. And we would walk into a business and there would be people from like 20 different countries in the same establishment. I thought that was very cool, especially for being in North Carolina, which is still part of the South. Felt like a miniature New York City until it became nighttime. Then it just kind of felt like a Texarkana. I think I went to a Waffle House really late at night, and I think we just landed really late in Raleigh, so like I went and got some Waffle House, and I distinctly remember it being just some of the most pure hood vibes ever. And then when the sun comes out, it goes back to people jogging and walking their poodles. Number 10 is Hilton Head, South Carolina. South Carolina is now one of the states where people are moving to the most. As you guys know, I'm not a huge fan of South Carolina. It's one of those places where it's just like every time I've gone there, I've had horrible experiences. But Hilton Head, I remember referring to it as a South Carolina version of Marco Island. You have nice beaches, you have great weather, you have Savannah, Georgia, not too far away. The vibes were really cool. The people were just kind of very coastal and relaxed. You still have a lot of palm trees here because it's, again, along the coast. I really like it. And I'm not a fan of South Carolina, but I will tell you that the vibes in Hilton Head were definitely more pure than the rest of South Carolina. It's really classy. And keep in mind, I'm from Naples, so I know classy. And I live in Lakewood Ranch, so I know classy. Are these beaches incredible like the beaches in, like, I don't know, like Panama City Beach? They're not. If you get to Myrtle Beach, it's a little bit trashier. Wilmington, North Carolina, it's a weird mix between classy and kind of not classy. I didn't really understand the vibe there. But Hilton Head, it feels authentically classy. I had a great time there. It felt nice, clean, and it felt very safe. And you have beautiful historic cities like Savannah and Charleston, not that far away. I don't think the job market in this area is like incredible. This is more of like a retirement, or if you already have a source of income from somewhere else. And geographically, there's not really too much to do in the area. I mean, you can head into Charlotte, or you can head into like Fayetteville, North Carolina, if you want to get robbed, or you can get down into Jacksonville, Florida, if you want to get robbed. You can run down into Macon, Georgia, if you want to get robbed, or you can go to Columbia, South Carolina, if you want to get robbed. Overall, it's not an incredible region, but if you're stuck on South Carolina, it might as well be here. All right, guys, that is the list. I'll give you guys a few extra bonuses that I considered putting on the list. If you're looking at the Austin, Texas area, the area of Bee Cave and Lakeway is really nice. Austin, Texas isn't my favorite city, but there are parts on the western side of Austin that are really nice. Kind of hill country, lots of rivers and lakes and stuff. Another area where I had a great time. So if you want to be in the Austin area, you're thinking about the Austin area, the area of Lakeway, Bee Cave is kind of newer. Especially heading up towards Round Rock, you'll find like nicer, newer parts around Austin are really nice. I'm not a fan of Austin. I think it's kind of a bland city, missing a lot. But the more I explore of Austin, the nicer areas I find. So Austin, Texas is still a possibility, but stay away from the urban core of Austin. There's a lot more crime. It's increasing. You're still getting a lot of cars being broken into in this area for some reason. It's not as glamorous as they're putting it out to be, My first trip to Austin, I just explored the urban core of the city, and I was really not impressed. You really got to end up somewhere like on the west side of 35 and further up into the hills. Then it starts to get prettier and nicer. Austin is definitely an option, a possibility, pushing back towards San Antonio, some pretty areas. But again, crime is definitely increasing in Texas cities, and it's not as glamorous as they're putting it out to be. On top of that, it gets incredibly hot here. Like 110 is normal. And in the winter, you get ice storms. So it's like you get the worst of the cold weather and the worst of the heat. It's just horrendous weather. It's still a very fast growing city that's very progressive. And at some point, you're probably going to hit a deer. If you're looking for a nice town in the Midwest, there's a place called Greenville, Ohio. It's really nice and clean. Do not wear a Michigan sweater. If you look it up on Google Maps, you'll see that it's close to Indianapolis. It's close to Cincinnati and Dayton. And it's also got one really nice thing going for it. If you look on Google Maps, you'll see how much industry they have in the outskirts. It's a beautiful, well-kept town. One of the things that I liked about it is that despite it being a small town, they have streetlights throughout the entire city, which means it feels very walkable at night. It just seemed like a clean, nice town with a lot of industry. Great little pizza place I went to. Just don't wear a Michigan sweater. If I were going to recommend a town in Michigan, if you don't mind living in the absolute frozen tundra, possibly needing a snowmobile to get out of your house, Marquette, Michigan is beautiful. The water's clear. The snows are brutal during the winter. It's a really nice town to freeze to death during the winter. I noticed that the World According to Briggs had Green Bay, Wisconsin. That is the closest big city to Marquette. There's a lot of supermarkets here. There's beautiful natural settings, a nice clean downtown. It is absolutely a beautiful city that is like frozen during half of the year. The town really has everything you need when it's not all frozen. Another great Michigan town is Petoskey, and it's not in the UP. It's just south of Traverse City. There are properties here on the water as expensive as $5 million, so there's a lot of wealth here. Great sporting activities, beautiful natural settings. There's a lot of great things to be done in this beautiful and expensive town of Michigan. This is definitely one of the most scenic parts of Michigan. So if you're thinking about Michigan for its natural beauty, probably don't do Grand Rapids. I recently went to Indianapolis for the first time. There's the suburbs of Fishers and Carmel on the north side. This area looks really clean and fancy, and according to Forbes, it's one of the safest parts of the country. Temperature here was in the lower 20s on the day we were here. So if you don't mind being frozen to death and are okay with cold weather, okay with the Indianapolis area, the suburbs to the north seem like they're growing a lot. Huge amounts of investment, very fancy, clean area. Felt very safe, clean, beautiful, all new development. If you don't mind, you want to be like in that region of the country, but you want to be in a nicer, faster growing area, they're definitely very highly rated areas. Are they really that great? I don't know. I think a lot of times when they have a lot of apartments and buildings to fill in, they'll say anything, to sell these apartments or whatever. But it didn't seem like a bad area. It seemed really nice. Probably overrated according to some of these magazines, but it's still nice. What this area does have is a lot of work, and the income to house cost ratio is one of the best I've seen in the country. Like literally, you can make $120,000 a year and buy a really awesome house for $300,000. So it seems like if you're looking to stack up your money and you don't mind dealing with bad weather and being in Indiana, then the economics of this place seem to make really good sense. I guess the downsides here will be, you're in Indiana. And finally, the town of Greensburg, Indiana. It's a small town in a region that's going absolutely nowhere, but this particular town is doing really well because there's a lot of work. In particular, there's a Honda plant right outside of the town. So while most of Indiana is like really not doing too good with their small rural towns, this particular little town, if you just want to be in a little town with good jobs, in cold weather, consider this little town. That is the list, guys. I hope you guys liked it. It's probably one of the longest lists I've done, but I want to be very thorough because I know if you're looking at this list, you're moving across the country and you want some good suggestions of places worth moving to. I think the list that I'm giving you today is very comprehensive based off of all my travels. These are places that might work for somebody watching this video right now. None of these places are perfect, and in fact, some of these places are even in Indiana. But based off of my travels, these are a good 10 or 15 places that I could recommend working for somebody that's moving throughout the whole country to make their lives better. And I hope that my honest opinions, they're not being swayed by real estate sales, can help people that are moving throughout the country. Did you find any of these towns interesting to you? Let me know what you think. And again, I gave you a huge mix of different states, different regions of the country. Obviously, I could have probably realistically thrown more of California and more of Florida on this list, but I want to give you guys kind of like a wide array of options throughout the country. Florida and California and like Texas really surpass the rest of the country as options to move. So there's more options within Texas and Florida and California that could have easily made this list, but we want to give other states an opportunity to bless their hearts. They're just not as good as us here in Florida. All right, guys, I hope you guys liked this video, despite it being like 42 minutes long and keeping me up till 5 in the morning. I hope you guys take advantage of my time and my expertise of traveling through America, finding places that are good. I'm very critical of most places that I go to, and that will usually work as an advantage to you, the person watching this video, because if you think about it, if I'm critical, I have a pretty good standard of what I expect a town to be. So when I do find a town that I like, it's met a lot of my criteria, where if I were just to lower my standards when I make a recommendation, a lot of crap can go wrong. And I'm going to give you guys one last bonus. Waynesville, North Carolina is a little town right outside of Asheville. I thought it was a great town because it has a Publix, a Starbucks. If you have a Publix and a Starbucks, what else do you need? They have a Cuban restaurant. The town has beautiful mountain settings, great weather. It's another perfect weather place. It's not as chaotic and crazy as Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville is just a little bit too much for me, but I found this town to be perfect. We were originally heading to Silva, which is not too far from here. I didn't like Silva. It just seemed kind of run down and kind of depressing, but this town here could have easily made the list as well. It seemed to have all of the good characteristics. Beautiful architecture, a little bit of variety with the restaurants, a freaking Publix. I mean, not every town gets a Publix, especially a town this size. Alright guys, so if you watched the whole video, you gotta leave a comment to help me out and hit the like button to help me out. And no, I don't hate the world according to Briggs. I actually watched his video. That's why I got mad, because I watched his video and I have a high expectation of what I expect him to give me as far as content goes. And he really let me down with that list. I feel like he could have definitely done better. First of all, he went with Fayetteville, which is like, you should know Bentonville is really where it's at. Then, you know, who are you kidding me? Grand Rapids? Like, you got to be kidding me. It's not even the best town in Michigan. And then Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I think a lot of people probably saw his video and ended up in Spartanburg. Let me tell you, if I ended up in Spartanburg, I would not be happy. Even if you look at the crime rates for Spartanburg, they're not really superb. So I felt like, you know, he really let me down in that video. Like, I don't like to look, I don't really like to look at other people's YouTube videos to copy their ideas. I just like to compare where my ideas fall with other people's ideas. And if you've been watching my travels like in the last 6 months, you could have probably figured half the towns that were on this list, because as I see a town I like, I'm going to give it the little hearts on the side of the, the little heart logo on the sides. Usually lets you know I really like that town, and you can probably expect it to make one of my best lists in the future. And these online lists, whether mine or other people's, are all pretty much the same. Miami, Sarasota, Nashville, Austin. A lot of people had Denver. I thought about putting Denver. The problem is that Denver has a crap load of crime and homelessness problems that other cities don't have to the same degree. Boise, Idaho showed up on a lot of lists. I've never been there, so I'm not going to put it on the list if I've never seen it. And again, I'm not mad at The World According to Briggs. I'm just kind of upset because I watched his videos and I expected a lot better from him on that list. He's got a crap load more subscribers than I do, so I would naturally just assume if he's got more subscribers than me, he's better than me, so he should be not disappointing me. I like the clickbaits too. We all have to clickbait at some point. But don't clickbait with information that's going to upset somebody's life, or like somebody's going to move somewhere and they're going to find out it really wasn't all that. Like, I'll clickbait a town, like on most road trips, I'll pick a town or two that I think the people will get very irritated at me, and I'll like say the most horrendous things on purpose because I know that it will get me views. But like, I'm not going to like say the town's a place you should move to if it's not. And I don't say that's exactly what I think Briggs did on that video, but I've seen other YouTubers, especially realtors, that will do that. Like, I've seen a realtor here in Tampa where she was like literally saying that all the cities around the area where she lives are the greatest places to move to. I'm like, that's very convenient. Imagine if tomorrow, finally, because of a miracle of life, Katie got her real estate license, and I made a top 10 list of the best places to move in Florida, and it was like, I don't know, Venice, Sarasota, Bradenton, Ellington, Parrish, Mayaca City, Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. Like, everything within a 30-minute drive of where we live. Wouldn't that just ring a few bells of that seems like, conflict of interest. Oh, okay, I see where we're going with this. Yeah, I get it. You're saying that because it pretty much benefits you. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Whatever. Every once in a while, I snap out and latch out at Nick Johnson or World According to Briggs, but it's not because I hate their channels. It's because I just get frustrated at them when I know something isn't the way I think it is. And I mean, like, in the case of Idaho, I've never been there, so I don't talk about it. Utah, never been there. I'll talk about it when I get there. Once I get to Idaho, I'll let you know off the top of my head what I'm thinking, whether it sounds right or wrong. But until I get there, I'm not going to make a video using like Google Map images and stuff like that. I could possibly make a video about Hawaii, even though I've never been there, using nothing but Google images, and just give you guys my thoughts and opinions about Hawaii, even though I've never been there. Hey, we should do that. I should do that. I should do like a video on Hawaii. And I'll be honest too, but hey, I've never been to Hawaii. I'm just using Google images. I have no idea what this place is actually like. I'm not going to spend the money to go there to make a good like actual video, but I'll make up a bunch of crap as we go, and I'm sure the locals will love it. And my credibility will go through the window. Well, it's like my hate affair with Alabama. I'm sure that's turned off a lot of people. But at least it's genuine hate, you know what I mean? Alright guys, checking out.